Board of Education appreciates everything that the town does, understands the constraints, and understands the balance between a town that values education to the degree that we do and the impact on the taxpayers. So thank you very much, and the experts will take over. Thank you.
Very well, you're the expert.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I'm just looking up to what a beautiful picture we have. What a beautiful campus and facility. I think it's approximately 170,000 square feet. It's a structure like no other, interconnecting structures, and 43 acres, beautiful acres. So we're here to talk about that. And I'd like to set the stage, though, by just mentioning that our approach in our capital budget is a holistic one. We're looking through one big lens for the next 6 years, and you have that in front of you here. And our requests are based on a belief system. One is that we want to be good caretakers of the facilities and good stewards of the grounds that constitute Beecher Road School. That's part of our responsibility. And we realize that these assets are resources that not only serve the children of our school, but belong to our community and our citizens. And we realize that we are partners with the town in caring for them. We realize that our job is to present you with the needs that we see for maintaining and improving facilities and grounds and the use of technology at Beecher Road School. But we realize too that the citizens of Woodbridge cannot be overtaxed, and therefore that the boards of selectmen and finance will have to decide what will be funded this year, what will be funded next year or in future years, and perhaps what will not be funded. It's also our belief that money wisely spent today will not only contribute to the success of our educational mission, but also will benefit the taxpayers in the long run. So our commitment continues to be that of continuing the process of improving the quality of education at Beecher Road School. And as I always say, preparing children for their future, not our past, and we all know that the world is transforming so quickly. And the process includes, as I said before, a strong commitment to improving and maintaining the grounds and facilities and keeping a good eye on our technology equipment as well. This slide is a snapshot of year one. You have it in front of you. You have the entire 6-year plan in front of you. And the highest priority of the board is the upgrade of Beecher Road School. It's $13.5 million, but that includes funds already appropriated for the new boilers. And we're well aware of the fact that the facilities are aching because of age and crying out for attention. We saw that in our town meeting with the presentation of the project, that comparatively the facilities rank very low in the country as far as the efficient use of energy. Classrooms are heated unevenly. We are on borrowed time with the mechanics of the HVAC system, and several of the roofs have outlived their life expectancy, so we all realize that. The grounds and landscaping, again, when we prepare capital budget, we use, those who are you familiar with it, the Fuss, and I'll talk more about it later, the Fuss and O'Neill Site Needs Assessment. That was done originally to give a blueprint for the future, not to run out and do everything that was said on the project, but really an organized way of looking at the future and taking good care of our grounds. Priority projects were identified from the assessment, particularly those that affected the building and issues of safety. And then we have kitchen and cafeteria equipment. This includes the routine replacement of worn out equipment and a little surprise request that's an enterprising revenue opportunity perhaps for all of us. Okay, we'll talk more about this in detail as we go along. Technology is a high priority with us also, because our children, and in fact each one of us, live in an environment where technology plays such an important role. Technology is integrated into the fabric of our lives, and education is moving more towards personal learning. All standardized tests this year will be computer assisted and adjusted to the learning pathways of every child, which is a revolutionary type of transformational step forward. And an environment for 24/7 learning with technology as a tool is evolving quickly. And we would be remiss if we didn't take this opportunity, as Margaret mentioned before, to thank the boards, Board of Education, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and the citizens of Woodbridge for the support that you've given to technology education. Again, we're in the forefront. I could easily say this with confidence that we're in the forefront of technology education in the state. And in addition to the physical equipment, we're blessed with teachers who are leaders in the field in the use of technology. And that was demonstrated that by 6 of our teachers, including Rick Wood, presented to standing room only audiences at a regional conference recently in Connecticut. Over 500 educators came from the tri-state area and who knows from around the country to hear what they had to say. And I was lucky enough to get in the picture with them and to cheer them on. Rick Wood is, is a treasure, one of our greatest human resources at the school, and he heads our team, a team like no other, and he's on the executive board of that premier technology organization. So we're well served by our staff. Okay, Rick will talk about our technology request.
Thank you.
You'll hear from the expert.
Good evening, and thank you. I bring greetings from the teachers at Beecher, and I bring thanks for the support that you give us in so many different ways. Beecher truly is a gem in a beautiful town. As we've been working on technology together for the past several years, using the capital budget as a mechanism for purchasing technology, we developed a regular sort of 5-year pattern of replacement. And first there's a quote here. Technology is the paper and pencil of our time, and I'm sure you've got yours in your pocket, just as most of us do, and the students do too. But the ages, the computers, as you'll see, our desktop computers, we're letting slide that 5-year plan because we're making the move toward mobile technologies. And the desktop computers continue to be used less and less as time goes on, and the increase in the mobile technology, the iPads in the classroom, continues. And you can see that pattern in this slide. Just a little bit about what we've purchased this year. We added enough iPads to expand to 10 classes using iPads full-time, along with 2 sets of iPads that are going from classroom to classroom during different portions of the year for teachers and students to have experiences learning how to implement them in the classrooms. We also are continuing the faculty mobile computer initiative, which we started here about 9 years ago. Those laptops have become a daily tool, indispensable for any teacher in the building, and it was a very good move, and the teachers use them for all sorts of things: instructional, communication, collaboration, for assessment and management of all sorts of data. We continue to upgrade office computers, and the projectors that go with the smart boards in the classrooms are on a continual replacement cycle, as is the infrastructure. This year we had to replace one of our servers. I'd like to take just a minute to talk to you about what's going on with the iPads this year. The entire 5th grade, which is 6 classes, every student is using an iPad in the classroom, and the teachers are working, that team of teachers are working with us, the library tech team, just about every week in doing professional development to be able to prepare and carefully plan out how those iPads are being used in the classrooms. That is beginning to expand beyond the walls of those individual classrooms. Over the past 2 weeks, we've been introducing them into the Spanish classroom so that the kids carry them with them to Spanish. That's going to be happening with the health classroom, with the music classroom, with the art classroom, eventually as we move through the year, so that they will be moving around the building. And humorously, The most difficult part is, what do you do with the iPads when you go from Spanish to lunch? You know, so those are the kinds of things that we spend too much time having to address. But we've worked it out and have a plan, and now it's working smoothly. In addition to those 5th grade classrooms, we have 2 6th grades, a 4th grade, a 2nd grade, and we have some centers developing in kindergarten. Our plan for next year calls for a significant infusion in the iPads so that we can fill out the entire 5th and 6th grade classrooms and a portion of the 3rd and 4th grade classrooms. Because next springtime, not this coming year, but the following year, 2015, is the year that we begin full-blown the testing, the new testing. And this will put the test taking right in the classroom, as opposed to having to schedule a centralized facility and kind of lockstep students through that. And the way the new tests work, they're not timed anymore. You have as much time as it takes to finish the test because it's adaptive. It adapts to your thinking and your answers, which could mean a student could spend a good part of a day trying to finish a test. And if that was part of a centralized system where you're scheduled in for an hour and you're out, we begin to run into problems. So putting the iPads for testing where the kids are is going to make a big difference. It also makes a big difference in many other ways. We're also going to continue replacing faculty laptop computers because they are of such value, along with office technology, the classroom projectors. And the infrastructure, there's a slight increase there because we need to be looking at what it's going to take to manage this number of iPads. And we have to look at implementing mobile device management systems, which will require some new different types of servers. And we continue to keep the wireless facilities expanding so that they can handle the number of iPads that we're introducing into the school. There are a number of reasons that we have come to understand over the past 3 years about why iPads are so significant in the classroom, and that's what we shared at the SICA conference this year. Just for samples, productivity. Students have a wide variety of ways now in the classroom with the iPad and traditional methods to demonstrate their learning. The iPad provides them with an integrated workflow that's many different tools integrated into one device. And there's an immediacy of information now. Instead of having to pack up the class, go to the tech center, everybody look something up, go back to the classroom, you look it up when you need it. It's right there. Creativity is another realm. Self-directed learning is on the increase. Students make many more choices about how they're going to present what they have learned. Accessibility. The iPad has so many built-in adaptive tools. We can adapt each device as needed for the student, and we can address many of the individualized needs in that way. Differentiation is another major focus. Different students have different ways of expressing themselves. Different students have different ways of gathering information, of taking notes, of managing their own data. The iPad is a phenomenal tool for that. It also means differentiation can be done without stigmatization, so that if you and I are reading a different level book, nobody knows. Nobody knows that I'm really slow at reading, and so I have to have a specialized book because I'm reading on my iPad. Nobody knows that I received a different math worksheet than you did. And so we take away a lot of the stigma attached sometimes to being different. and authenticity. It's amazing to watch students take photographs in the science classroom, to take notes and to use dictation, everything right there at one point, and then to publish that as an authentic work. Looks like a book for a real audience. It's an amazing change that's taking place. Thank you for your support.
Mr. Wood, you are truly the expert. And what I'd like to say too is technology and the arts in this age of so many state mandates in education and so on are really helping us to keep the focus of what Beecher Road School has always been and hopefully will always be, with a focus on innovation and creativity. And we would love maybe in the spring to bring some of our children, maybe our second graders again, to sit alongside of you and show you some of the things that they're doing. I think you'll be amazed with it, or invite you to come to the school to see it. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Thank you.
Okay, let me just say a few more words about the upgrade. As I mentioned, it's the highest priority with the Board of Education, and we want to thank the Board of Selectmen for appointing a town building committee, and we want to thank the members of that committee for putting so many hours, days, weeks, months into really thinking of a type of project that will meet the needs of our facility and also be fair to the taxpayer. So here's the initial charge of the committee was to include was expanded to include the pool area as well as the security upgrades. The current budget is $13.6 million, and again that includes the already appropriated new boilers. Let me give you just a short synopsis of the construction history of Beecher Road School. 1960 original building, A, B, and C wings. 1970 south wing. 1994 D wing. 1997 kindergarten wing. So as you can see, some areas of the building are over 50 years old, and the last major renovation was almost 17 years old. And just a few words about this slide here. Again, when we talk about the grounds and landscaping, this is a section behind the A building. It's hard to see the real extent of the slope there, but during torrential rains, water just pours down there and hits the side of the building. And that leads to some problems within the building. And so that was one of the priority projects that was identified in Fussell O'Neill, and I think that might be included in the upgrade as a way of watching, not only caring for the grounds, but how do the grounds affect the building too. And now we'll have Al Poole, our district Director of Business Operations and Facilities, will talk more about our request.
Thank you, Dr. Stelling. Good evening. You see before you, and I noticed many of you have it at your places, Dr. Steller referred to the Fuss & O'Neill Site Needs Assessment that the Board of Education undertook in 2011. Here is page 1 of that, the outcomes of it. And here they compartmentalized it into the erosion and sedimentation mitigation, looking at various areas of the campus, both near the building and throughout the 43 acres of areas that the site needs addressing for topography, the flow of the land to better use that land, and also to direct water in areas close to the building, to direct water away from the building. Again, this is the first part of the outcome, and second page is the category for habitat and vegetation, better usage of plants that serve not only aesthetic values but get some functional improvements as well. For example, to control some of the invasive species growth throughout the campus. And also, Fuss & O'Neill, realizing that Beecher Road School is an educational institution, they offered some side opportunities where the students can partner in learning opportunities and stewards of the land. And again, this is really, as Dr. Stella referred earlier, the blueprint for the future. It wasn't intended to be an immediate solution implementation, but gave certainly projects that can be prioritized and planned for over the years. Looking back, very, very pleased to see much progress has been made in implementing the recommendations of Fuss and O'Neill. For example, here you're looking at an area just outside of our A wing. Picture on the left, the before, clearly you can see the flow of the land directed any waterfall towards the building, and we have certainly received feedback of that from the staff and visitors. What we have done, one of the recommendations of Fuss and O'Neill was the installation of a biofiltration swale. Biofiltration swale has two values. One, the aesthetic, the plantings, the beautification, but also functional. There's a purification through the plantings, through the river jack rock that you see. The rainwater that falls is purified before it is returned to the stream waters that collect. Again, looking back, tangible projects that have been accomplished. You have here the snapshot on the left, a playground that was deemed unsafe and up for demolition. And again, through the support of the Boards of Education, Finance, Selectmen, and the community, we're pleased to have had two, not one, but two playgrounds erected in a 6-month time period. Again, looking back, we know that progress is made, but just like many of us in our homes, there's always a to-do list. And looking forward, our to-do list contained year one request for fiscal 14-15 is this area here just outside the north entry parking lot. This driveway or road or pathway rather is primarily used by emergency vehicles, fire, ambulance, and the existing path as it stands is relatively narrow for those vehicles to pass through. So what we've looked to do is set aside an appropriation with approval that we can repave the area to wider, more conducive for the emergency vehicles, and also take benefit of that repaving to direct the pavement flow so that water is directed away from the building. Looking ahead, as part of the capital project, asked us to look at a 6-year horizon. These are some of the other projects, again, contained recommended outcomes from the Fuss and O'Neill report that we're putting on the runway for future years.
Yeah, let me just interject here. This ties in with the building upgrade too, because you have to look at air quality, and that involves moisture getting into the building and so on. The top left area, your left, that's the outside of the B wing, the multi-age area. And half jokingly, but this was a true story, one teacher mentioned a number of years back of looking outside when there are torrential rains, of watching the ducks outside the window just swim in the water. So that's an area. And another priority looking down is that the A building that I spoke about too. But if you look at the top right, that's another area outside the science laboratory where, and the bottom is an extension of that. You can see how eroded it is there. They're just trenches and it's unsafe for children to play there, tripping hazards and so on. But additionally, the water just flows down and hits the south gym. And again, when there are torrential rains, it actually goes inside the gym. So that's a kind of project, though, again, with our partnership, their well-established partnership, that's something that we could do together and save money on. For example, Tony Genovese and Adam Parsons visited with us, and we looked at that. And Adam was full of ideas of what the town could do during one of the there's no slow season, but one of the slower seasons for the town as far as helping to level it and making a better field for children, and again, a type of partnership that we could do together. Thank you, Al, for that.
Another area under the envelope of buildings and grounds is our asphalt and concrete replacement. Obviously, daily traffic, both vehicular and pedestrian. Again, looking back, pleased to be able to point to various projects where we've made progress. What you're seeing here is the north entryway. Picture before obviously showed problematic safety hazards, especially in the winter for clearing snow and ice from that. And then to the right afterwards, with partnership and help from the town, we're able to take a safety concern and an aesthetic concern and completely turn it around into something that's functional, practical, and useful. Again, in the arena of progress being made in partnerships with the town and the use of the STEEP grant, we were able to implement the redesign of the north entry traffic circle. What you're seeing here is the pavement replacement, the stamped concrete to the walkway, and the installation of another biofiltration swale, again adding the aesthetic and the functional element to it. And most recently, this past summer, we had the repaving of our basketball court area in the back of the campus there. And this is an area that's used by hundreds of students on a daily basis and practically 24/7, 365. Again, taking the opportunity with new pavement to pitch, to be sure the pitch of water flow is away from any building area. Looking forward, the project that is contained in fiscal 14-15 request, this is our south entry. This is where the students are dropped off bus each day, parent vehicle traffic as well. This picture shows the asphalt, but immediately connected is the concrete, which is shifted in some areas. And you know, good folks have tried to put in stopgap measures with marking the pavement and the concrete in areas where there's an elevation shift or a trip hazard, but the areas are in need of replacement. Lastly, on the category list of capital budget is our kitchen and cafeteria equipment. And again, as Dr. Stella alluded earlier, we look to our technology life cycle and replacement needs. We do the same for our kitchen and cafeteria equipment, and as items are approaching or exceed useful life, we target them for replacement. In year one request is the reach-in refrigerator for replacement of existing equipment. Also the ice cream and frozen yogurt machine that will serve both ice cream and frozen yogurt that's compliant with the school lunch program, USDA requirements. And lastly, earlier in his presentation, Dr. Stella mentioned an enterprising revenue opportunity, a vending machine. Vending machine that would serve healthy snacks to all Beecher visitors 24/7 as the need be. More importantly, during the summer months when traditionally our kitchen is not in operation.
So we presented our capital budget request for your consideration. Our final slide demonstrates what benefit we can bring to our school and community when all of us continue to work with our shared vision and work for a common cause. If you look from left to right, we have the technology that has really been a home run at the school, the 2 playgrounds that was mentioned. We have the playground working with the town where hundreds of children use it constantly, and also adjoining pathways to that court area. On the right, it's a little bit hard to see, but it was a major accomplishment with the support of the school district and the town, and that's the installation of a badly needed, much needed telephone public address system. Basketball court on the bottom. The lockers was another partnership that we had. Then the traffic circle and the acoustics done in the cafeteria, a long-awaited job that has a 94% efficiency that was measured with data to show that it was efficient. And replacement of carpeting and carpets in our wonderful library in different areas of the building. So working together over the past year, we've done a lot together, and that that's what's happened when there's a shared vision, when there's tenacity to stay on course and meet every obstacle, and when the necessary resources are provided to do the job. So we thank you for your past support, and we thank you for your consideration, and any questions that you have, my panel of experts over here will be glad to answer them. Okay.
Do you have any questions?
Rick, for the iPads, do they get assigned to an individual student, and do they take them home with them?
At this point in time, yes, they're assigned to a student, but only during the school day.
Okay.
Home use is something that we'll be looking at. Not this year, but next year is tech plan writing year, and that will be part of the discussion and planning, I would presume, for the future.
Okay. And how'd you solve the problem at lunch?
I filled my car up with bins and things at Staples, and we've made carts, and they drop them in the cart as they leave the Spanish room or the health room.
Okay.
And it waits there at that room until the responsible student for the day picks them up and rolls them back.
That's great.
But Connecticut is taught with this also. I was in one second grade class today where the children were receiving their iPads for the first time, And, they had to hold it a certain way, even when they got it, they had to say thank you, and the way they carried it. There was a little slideshow shown to the children on the care of it, and the etiquette of using it, and so on. So there are a lot of
That's
side learnings that go with it.
That's really terrific. And Alan, a question for you about the grounds and landscaping plan. Are there particular numbers here that are part of the plan for next year? Or did you just kind of divide it up and say this is what we need for the 5 years?
The numbers, really for next year's request, we included just that project that I had put up on the board
Okay.
earlier for the north entry. If
Okay, that's
budgets
the
and
whole
if
project.
bid results
Okay.
end up permitting, we have a go-to list. I mean, that document, as we said, is our blueprint. So
Right,
what's
right.
our priority, what's our must-have wish list?
Okay.
And then what's put on Plan B, and then let's move forward as permitted.
Okay.
And the study was helpful too in the town committee meetings, and Andy could correct me if I'm wrong with this here, but some of the projects had an impact on the building, so they might be, a couple of them might be included in the plan. So that, and then again, the blueprint is always available to us if there's ever available monies, and when we want to do something with it, and the town wants to, then we can do it in an organized way.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. On the iPads, is the goal to have every child eventually have use of an iPad? Or is it just a particular grade?
Yeah, sure. At this point, the anticipation is that probably at least 3rd through 6th would have them as individual iPads for each student. That idea based on the fact that those are the grades that do the testing.
And typically, how long do they last? 2 years? 2 years? What's the life we get out of it?
We've yet to determine that because the original 4 iPads that we bought the month after they came out are marginally usable at this point, but all the rest of them are still in service. I anticipate that we should be able to get at least 4 years, hopefully more than that, but it's not going to be like desktops that we try for a 5-year cycle and okay if they're 7 or 8.
Well, the reason I ask is because I see in the request it's for 170 iPads, which I'm assuming is about half the number of if we were 3rd grade to 6th grade. Does that sound about right? So would that be? It looks like. Go ahead.
Yeah, 170 would be probably about a third of the 3rd to 6th grade. Yes, they're about 430 students, I think, in those grade levels.
Okay. Well, I guess my question is, I see the rolling number for the 6 years being around the same, 135,000. It drops to 125 and stays steady each year. Is that because the projection is including 170 new iPads every year, due to how long they last and how many we need?
I'm guessing that number will drop slightly. That's why we dropped it by 10,000. So I would guess probably on the order of 150 annually.
So the projections are based on a 4-year life cycle of the iPad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I have a question. Mr. Wood,
Yes.
when did you start at Beecher?
1979.
Yeah, what page is that? I mean, it's not just one, but several generations of technology that you've been through over the course of the
Yes.
years. And I remember back in the Paleolithic era, it seemed to me that there was a lot of grant money available for educational institutions to get hardware for technology. What is the status of that today? If you know.
I'm not seeing lots of grant opportunities for districts like Woodbridge.
So, but
there are a lot for inner city
okay.
schools and things
Okay.
like that. There are small grants available, but in many cases, they're to bring people up to places that we've already passed.
Okay, all right. So these are, this is net of any grant money that might be out there. Okay, all right. And the second question is, do you have a third grader who could do my IT for me maybe at my office? I mean, it's starting to feel like, that's where we need to go with this.
Well, that's an interesting concept because one of the things that we do with...
You mean I'm not making a joke?
No, because in classrooms, we don't expect the teacher to be the expert on everything iPad. We identify the students who are the go-to person for a particular app, and the students all know that.
Well, there was a time when there was a very active intergenerational technology program to that end. To that point, actually, and I don't know whether that still exists or not, but but let me know and I'll sign up.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd just like to mention I've been in education many years. I've never seen the speed of transformation that's taking place right now, and what I can't emphasize enough: the movement towards personalized learning, and also a transformational movement, virtual learning. And 24/7 learning, and technology plays a role in all of these here. So as we move forward, technologies like the pencils that we use, it's part of our environment. It's not even, I don't think it's a choice as we move forward. But we always hope that the price will come down on, say, on the iPads and so on, and we'll keep our eyes open for any types of grants. It's hard for Woodbridge, but we'll try.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up is the Police Commission. Good evening.
Good evening. Where would you like us to start?
Start with, go in the order that you have here. I guess vehicle replacements first. Is that right? Acceptable?
Acceptable?
That's what it says.
Acceptable level on our part. I mean, a couple of years ago, you probably remember me telling you that I was gonna allow the fleet to get a little higher in mileage, which I did, and obviously it shows on the paperwork. Tony, did they have?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. As you can see, the mileage. But over the past couple of years, we've actually, with some of the new vehicles, kept the mileage down based on who we assign it to and how much it's going to be used. And we're being a little bit more efficient in how we're using the vehicles. But obviously, you can see that we still have vehicles in our fleet that are supposed to be pursuit qualified that are well into the 100,000 miles. So when I say acceptable, probably a good 2/3 of the fleet is acceptable.
What's the current state of police vehicles? There's no more Crown Vics, right?
No more Crown Vics. Right now, it's a very competitive field.
I've seen some funky looking cop cars. There's some real weird looking.
We're buying SUVs now.
Yeah, there's some weird looking.
And a lot of departments are doing that because of the Fords that you really can't see out the back window. Yeah. And they're putting cameras in the cars so they can see out the backs. They're smaller, guys are bigger, and they have a problem getting in and out of the cars. So these are perfect for us.
But we test drove the Chevy, the Chrysler. Not that some of the officers didn't want some of the other vehicles that the Chevys were a bit faster, they had bigger engines. We just found that the Ford was economical wise, it was the best fit. I actually showed Tony that in the SUVs this last year, we've actually gone down in mileage per gallon use a little bit. I was able to figure it out. So efficiency wise, the SUV is much better. The guys drive them a little bit better, like the chief said. They're much bigger. They hold all the equipment that we have in them, and hopefully we'll probably stay with them until we see that something else is better out there. Now, there's a lot of cars, you can see Derby, a lot of the area departments, they have the sedan. But it is, like the chief said, it's smaller, very difficult to see out the back window. I actually, 3 years ago, got the 2012 Taurus, which is the model of what the police car is, the Interceptor is. I had to put a rear view camera in it, because aftermarket rear view camera, because I just couldn't see out the back. So we saw that. We have the sensor cameras on the SUVs. So if the officers are getting close to anything, the sensor goes off and lets them know. But it's much easier for them to see out of the SUV. And again, it holds all, because we are first responders. We carry an awful lot of equipment. We carry enough equipment that probably overflows on it in a regular sedan trunk. So having the SUV in the back, there's a lot more room. It's more accessible for the officers because of all the equipment that they carry.
And perfect in the winter. They're much better in the winter.
All-wheel drive. The last 2 we bought are all-wheel drive. We're expecting 2 more this month, which will be all-wheel drive, the 2 SUVs. And then, hopefully in our next request for next fiscal year will be another SUV. And the reason they're obviously they're so expensive and they're new. The company's going to be very marketable with them, with price, because there's nothing else to go out there for. I mean, like I said, everybody was buying the Crown Vic. It was a good price. It was effective in police work, but it's gone. So now it's the market is just about where it is on all of them. I wouldn't be really saving any money if I went with Chrysler or I went with Chevy. It's all about personal preference. When you go out and buy a personal vehicle, you just like that brand better than the other. And Ford seems to be pretty good for us. All the equipment that we had on the Crown Vics, a good portion of it still goes into the SUV. Our new light bars that we started buying about 5 years ago, they're all fitting right on the new SUVs. The cages don't. We have to replace the cages, and we're going to a different system. Because it's an SUV, we have a lot of the equipment in different locations. We brought the shotgun and the long gun up, and it's right alongside in between. The officers have readily accessibility to it instead of having to get out of the car and go back and get in the trunk. Things like that. So that's why that added cost. Where I used to get a vehicle for about $28,000, now it's up to $35,000. And that's the full cost. Not to say that we can't, get trade-in values that we've talked about on the vehicles that we're getting rid of. We're working on that. But that's basically our request for 2015, and we're looking to get what they call an all-purpose vehicle. It's a pickup truck. My research showed that a lot of the area departments, Seymour, Orange, Milford, they all have a fully outfitted pickup truck, 4-door. They use it for everything. It's almost used more than a police car. And it can be used as a police car. We could use it as a police car during the winter months because it would be a 4-wheel drive vehicle. It carries all the equipment to training. It could be used, it will be used for accident investigation. It actually will be replacing the older Expedition. It's at the bottom. The 2003 Expedition that the SRO uses over at the high school. So basically, he drives it over there and drives it back, so it doesn't get a lot of mileage on it. But he would probably be assigned to that because he's also our accident investigator. So he would have all the equipment in that. So if he had any major accident, he goes right to it like he does with the Expedition. He just carries all that right with him, so he doesn't have to go back to headquarters, load it all up, and then go out. And then again, like I said, for training purposes, I mean, you could fit 6 or 7 officers in that pickup truck with all the equipment in the back, and they can go off to training. So that's basically the purpose. So I see us, if we are able to get the pickup truck, we're probably going to use that much more than when we ever use a squad car. It would be much more beneficial for the department.
Pretty much an ongoing program.
Yeah, very conservative. We have a new IT tech in our computer. One of our sergeants, Sergeant Thomas, has taken over because we had our IT tech leave last year. He's recommending one MDT, which is our mobile data terminals. These are the Panasonic puck hooks that go in, for those of you who don't know, that go into our police cruisers. it's funny, you were talking about iPads before.
And as I was listening to the presentation by Dr. Stella, I'm saying, he says, we probably in the very near future, and I explained it to the first selectman, you're probably going to see iPads in the police cars. You'll probably see them assigned to the officers, and they'll probably be able to do exactly what these tough books do in it. But the benefit will be is they're much cheaper, because the Panasonics right now are going over between $4,000 and $5,000 for one unit, but it lasts 7 years. I mean, I think the one that we're replacing now was bought in 2006, so it's that's a good lifespan for a computer, and it's not that they're not capable of going longer. It's just they won't support the software that's coming out for the technology for police work. That's the reason we're getting rid of them, because I could show you and you would think that, I mean, if you've seen it in any magazines, the Panasonic Toughbook is probably one of the best computers you can get out there right there. I mean, all the construction agencies use it, the government uses it for work and everything. I mean, it's very, to go out and get very rugged work. So we've been real happy with those. But the iPads, I see that coming. The company that we deal with our CAD system, our computer-aided dispatch, next generation, they're promoting it right now. They're looking into going into it. So feasibility-wise, in the next, I'd say, 3 to 5 years, you're going to see officers with iPads. Probably individually, they'll be issued one. And right now, the iPads, you can get them for $300 or $400.
And what will they do with them during lunch?
Surf the net. But I think the reason I mentioned that, in the next couple of years, we're going to save money. A lot of money.
Sometimes I crack myself.
Yeah, I know, you're good.
That's good. That was good.
So how many computers are you actually replacing with this?
Just one.
Just
well,
one?
no, and then there's three. There's the chief. How we do it at the department is the chief's computer room. He hasn't had a new computer in quite a while. Our secretary, admin, and the Lee's GBS, which is the computer up in the dispatch area that controls the GPS that shows where the officers are and everything, has to be replaced. We take those and we replace those with ones that we kind of just circulate them down to the older computers, So we don't technically replace the oldest computer.
So you're purchasing 3 new computers and 1 MDT? Is that
Correct.
what it is? Okay. And generally,
And then there's some additional money that we requested for. We have some printers that have been to 3 printers, service printers in the building.
Okay. It doesn't say that.
I didn't say that in there, but I know it's part of it.
Are the applications, the police essential applications, all supported by the Apple iPad? Is this all compatible? You've checked all that?
Not right now. I can get the program right now. NextGen has offered it to me or admin. We can get it, and I just can't. I can view it, but I can't access it to do anything in it. So they're at that point right now. So you see, over the next couple of years, they're gonna. There's some companies that can do it, but it's at its infant stage. Mm-hmm. I've seen the program work. I can get it. I can put it in my car. I can see everything that I need to see, but I can't do anything in there. I can't get in and run a plate. I can't do anything that the officers do. You can't actually work in it. It's not an operational mode. It's just a viewing mode of the information that the officers are doing. But hopefully, like I said, within the next, might be sooner. And they see it coming real close. And they're, it's like technologies. It could be tomorrow, but or that it could be, 2 years down the road. I'm excited about it because it really will be a big cost savings for us.
Didn't we talk at one point about trying to coordinate the IT support between the different departments? Is that happening or not yet?
We've started to review that, but we're sort of in its beginning stages. But we've done some work on that.
Okay. Building up here, I think we know that's all. Unless you have anything new to add to it.
No, Dr. Stella talked about ducks. I guess I could put a little caveat in there that our officers are still using grammar school toilets. I just wanted to throw in a little caveat, trying to be funny. You know, it's there. I ended up talking to Brian Humes. The cost is only going to go up. I talked to him about, doing it in more than 2 phases. He said it would be beneficial. I mean, if you wanted the answers to any of the other questions, I mean, we're going to go over it or share it. But it's what it is.
As far as radio update, do you want to mention that you're going to meet with, what's the woman's name from Northeast we're supposedly going to try to send?
Oh.
Julie?
Julie Rebel?
Right.
Julie?
So we're trying to, I guess it's coordinating amongst police and fire.
Yeah.
'Cause like, we met with the fire department, they're saying you need something else, which was a fortune.
What do we need?
A console or something? Or what did they say?
Well, that's the whole communication
Chasing-
upgrade. That's part of the building.
They're chasing
upgrade.
good money after that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the building upgrade.
So I guess
Right.
what Ellen's going to meet with all the parties concerned and with,
Julie Reibel.
Julie.
Julie Wright.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll understand what she has to say when they say it could be a problem, but.
Right, I think this goes to Sandy's point. We're trying to understand what is the overarching need and accessibility, and is there a better and more efficient way to make sure our first responders and our emergency departments
right.
all have what they need, and we're doing it in the most efficient and coordinated way for the town. So, because
The only thing that we're worried about are our portables right now are so outdated and they just can't be fixed anymore. So that's what we're concerned with.
So I guess the key is that they've got to be compatible with
Yeah.
whatever new
So-
system.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I guess right now, the
Right.
Public Works does not operate, in other words, during the
Wanted to
storm, you guys and fire, you couldn't communicate with Public Works guys.
Right.
Because they're on a low band and you're.
They're on a low band.
But you guys, there was no way that
We're on VHF.
you could communicate with them.
Right.
So I guess one of the other things they're trying to accomplish here is that all 3 of them communicate on the same system, which is important.
Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
important.
Yeah, it's a little disheartening.
So we
to
did have
read
a
about
pretty
lack
lengthy
of
meeting
coordination.
and
Sure.
decided that we're going to get a hold of Julie.
right.
And
And what does that have to do, though, with the repeater location?
No,
Or
nothing.
is that all
I
tied
think
together?
that's related to what we hear from Julie.
yeah.
Okay.
As we understand it. I mean, we were hoping also, since, well, I'll speak for myself and some others, are not as technologically sophisticated as we would like to be to understand all of this, and we're hoping she can explain it in a way that will help all of us know what's the best process going forward and the best way to proceed.
Do you think it might be a goal for us then not to purchase any additional equipment until we have a plan that'll integrate everything?
That it would be ideal if we had an integrated plan. I think the chief is talking about some items, the portables, that you think can't last, but I guess we would need some information to know they sort of universally adaptable, and do our best to make sure they're compatible going forward.
The last time we did this radio project was 2003, and we issued, at that time, we paid for it by issuing bonds. They were 10-year bonds, which were just paid off last year.
Is that the simulcast system?
The simulcast,
Okay,
yeah.
Simulcast.
Okay.
So,
10
This
years already.
doesn't address the
Yeah.
system per se, but this addresses somewhat of the infrastructure, which is our portables and our mobile radios that are in the cars, which are outdated, and the replacement. I mean, it's a 3-year plan. It's the portables this year, what they call the GPS next year, and the GPS was just to have spare, because we know it's an aging system. But this radio request has nothing to do with the system itself. This is just providing the police department with the upgraded equipment that could support whatever.
In other words, it would work with this new,
Correct.
because the numbers we heard,
Okay, I didn't
the
understand.
numbers we heard are very high. I mean,
It's like I told you.
It's not 150.
it would be, no, it would be
Hundreds and, million maybe.
yeah, it would be more like
Huge,
a
huge amount of money.
capital
To get everybody,
Okay.
borrowing type
All
thing.
right.
yeah, this would be a bonded thing.
Bond, yeah.
Okay.
The numbers we
I wasn't
heard
understanding that.
for this console that they're saying you can't get parts for anymore, and if it breaks down, we're gonna be in trouble, we're gonna have to.
Maybe.
But that console is part of
Right.
the
The
building
big,
request.
the whole, well, yeah, I know, but I think that's something we gotta do sooner, though.
Yeah.
So, but that's something we talked about, and I think we should be able to meet with her and get some ideas fairly quickly. Certainly before we have to.
That's all we have to do.
Yeah. So we're on that. Okay, that's that. Anything else? Any further questions?
I have a couple. Start back with the vehicles. Looking at the 6 years plan, am I to assume basically that's 2 vehicles per year?
Correct.
1 SUV and
Next
one-
year, which is 2016, would be an admin vehicle, probably would be, because we have to think about moving them down, kind of like the same way you do with the computers. You move them down to where it's needed. And then going back into fiscal year 2012, I have no idea what the police cars are going to go for, so I said 35 apiece, which is 70 grand. And then hopefully going back, and realizing going into 2018, we're at a point where our fleet will be SUVs. So we will have all the equipment. So all that extra money that we're paying into, say from 30 to 35,000, we'll already have. So we'll just be taking all the equipment out of one and putting it in another, which unfortunately we can't do now. Because we're taking everything out of Crown Vic and we're putting it into it. So there's quite a cost associated with that. So hopefully that'll cut down the cost. Hopefully even more.
Great.
For our trades.
Moving to the building upgrade, I've never actually seen a detailed plan that was, I guess it was finished in 2012, is that right?
Yeah, what happens in 2009, we did a space needs assessment. I think I provided the first, I don't know, a full thing. Did you get that? Did you get the whole thing?
So,
In 2009, we did a space needs assessment. And last year, we finished a floor plan with a cost estimate. And that's what it was based on.
right, so it was finished in 2012, and I guess my question is, this pricing is based on the 2012 finished floor plan,
Correct.
so it may not be quite up to.
Oh, it's going to
a
go up on a
year
year.
and a half.
It's going to go up on a yearly basis. Like I said, I talked to Mr. Hughes today, and
I just want to make sure that I'm looking, so the numbers I'm looking at might be a little bit understated. They're probably higher.
we actually originally came in with about a 3.2, and a lot of it has to do with that building. I mean, the H factor, actually, the heating, air conditioning, and ventilation of that building. They came back and told me, unfortunately, said, Ray, there's no other way we can do this. We have to project the price because you can't just do the windows for dispatch. I mean, you would have to do the windows for the building. So it's, I mean, I know you understand that principle, but that's why it escalated from what started as about a $3.2 million project to it's up to over $5. But a little less than that with the grant. I got grants for that.
My last question is for Tony.
Yes.
Tony, in the building upgrade, I see bond issue at 4.7 and then other 500,000. Is that some type of grant or some?
Correct. We received a $500,000 steep grant towards this project. So it would offset the amount that the town would pay by $500,000.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next is building maintenance. Is that what Brad's here for?
Yep.
How is Joe Adaluzzi doing? I heard he was hurt.
Good evening, everybody.
Maybe Brad knows. How's Joe doing? Have you heard anything, Brad? Didn't
He's
he?
doing fine.
He fell or something? Or?
Yeah, he fell, I guess fell at home and had some different shoulder problems, a few internal problems, but he pulled through and
You okay?
I'm surprised he's not here tonight. All of a sudden I'm here. But Tony asked me to help in any way I possibly can. Any questions?
Joe was involved early in creation of this plan and has since retired. And so we have, Brad and I have sort of put this together. And so we wanted to go through this with you.
Okay, Tony, go.
So the first project is, as you are probably aware, we discussed last year, there's a humidity issue at the library. And so we need some more professional services to find out exactly what the problem is and exactly what some solutions could possibly be. So that's what the funding is for that first one, is for some professional assistance in helping to develop a plan for that issue. You'll see later on in the report, number 6, is just at this point an estimate on an approximate amount that it could possibly involve. But it's sort of in its infancy. The second is we currently have $35,000, right?
Correct.
Yep, for tile replacement and tile flooring in the daycare area. And as we gotten further into this project, we have realized that there would be an additional $10,000 required to help remediate the tile flooring and some of the issues involved there. What are some of the issues, Brad?
Well, we didn't put enough money in that account. What we take out, we didn't have enough money to put back in. So when I'm finished with the project, to complete it, I have to put new tile back in, or tile carpet in that room, or carpet in that room, which would be all part of the same project. We just didn't have enough funds to do that.
No, we haven't done that yet. It involves actually a fair amount of coordination with the daycare because they have a lot of requirements. I met with the board on that, and there's a number of licensing requirements that they have in terms of space and bathrooms, and so there's going to be some coordination on our part.
They pretty much function all the time.
Right, because there's going to be a 3 weeks?
At least 3 weeks,
At least 3 to 4 weeks, where it's going to, there's area's not going to be.
So many children
Operation.
allowed in each room,
Yeah.
and so many children need a bathroom or a bathroom and a
And then
half.
sink facilities.
Sinks
Yeah.
for so many children. It all has to be coordinated.
So we may have to, either
Right.
move them around to
Right.
another
We
spot.
have 35,000 set aside, and this is an additional.
Correct.
Okay.
That's additional to complete the
Okay.
project.
Thank you.
Oil tank.
The underground tank abandonment project is for our existing underground tanks, which is Center Building is one, right?
Center building, library,
Library is the other one.
new firehouse,
And
and town hall.
Town hall, right?
All three have underground heating oil storage tanks.
Are we removing them or filling them with
No,
sand?
this would be
Or whatever you
to
have to do.
expose the top of the tank, cut it
Uh-huh.
open, clean it, have the soil tested, fill it with sand, and cap it and leave it in place. It's the cheapest way to go. So that cost is for all environmental services, the sand itself for all 4 tanks. We use town employees. Most of the work is done by a person on a backhoe, and maintenance does the rest of it. All the piping is disconnected, electrical, and basically the tank is abandoned in place. The center building tank would be horrific to get out. It's close to the building, 6,000-gallon tank. It's massive. The only tank that we currently are not sure on how we're going to handle is the tank in front of the new firehouse. We haven't, the cost is included to abandon that tank, but we're looking at alternatives and maybe utilizing that tank for something else, such as diesel fuel, so we don't have to disturb the entire front of that new building, which would be the memorial, the electrical, the flagpoles, the irrigation, the entire front. It's a 2,500-gallon tank, and
It's brand new, so it's probably in good shape.
it's in good shape. So if we can find an alternate use for that tank, like diesel fuel, which you can store up to 3 years max for the trucks in an emergency, it's a good way to go.
This one right over here, as I was walking in tonight from this parking lot, I see there's a filler pipe right in the middle of the shrubs.
Yeah, that's a 500-gallon tank for the generator.
Oh, okay. That was
Right
still
behind
used.
that, in the other shrubs, in the other bank of shrubs, there's a 2,000-gallon tank.
So that goes under the driveway, or?
Some of it does, some of it goes underneath the shrubs, but we just need to expose enough of the top where an individual can get into it and go down to the bottom and sample the soil underneath it to ensure that the soil has not been contaminated. That's all we need
So
to
you
do.
cut a hole in the bottom of the tank too?
The small holes for testing devices, rods, and that.
They've been drained and they've been empty for a while, or?
No, we
Not that
haven't
long.
drained some of them. The library tank, we want to leave in the ground, fear it'll pop out of the ground once we drain the fuel out of it. The one, the center building
Sounds like a
is
fun project.
about 500-600 gallons in it. The one at the library has 1,200 gallons in it. The one at the firehouse is currently used. Right now, the state has not been notified that they've been abandoned. Once they've been notified they've been abandoned, you have approximately 1 year do something about it.
So Brad, who does the testing?
AEI, we have a price from AEI. I met with Joe Sanavasi, he came out, he will handle all the testing.
He did our testing.
Yeah.
He did the big oil gas spill.
All the testing, all the
Maybe
plants,
we
close out documents,
bad
as
news.
is waste disposal, on-site supervision.
So is the hope you give him access to all 4 tanks in one shot?
All 4
He
tanks.
comes in, does all 4 tanks,
All
tests
4
them all.
tanks, does all the testing.
So you need to get all your work done before, or at least to get it ready for him to come in and test. You'll do them all at one
Yeah,
time.
as soon as I expose and cut the top of the tank, once it's been cleaned out by, like Connecticut Tank will come in, suck any product that's out of it. If it's any good, which the library has 1,200 gallons in it, we sell that back to them at a lower rate. The tank is thoroughly cleaned, and then the bottom is cut, and then Joe Sanavasi comes in and does his soil testing to ensure that there's no problems with the soil. Once that's done, Joe Sanavasi leaves, Public Works, whoever Adam, that's who I picked, we just truck in O&G sand, it doesn't make any difference, and it just filled up, capped, new soil, and grass seed, and it's done. And he closed that tank out with the state.
Are these tanks very old? And we know the firehouse is new. I'm assuming the library might be fairly new.
The library's fairly new. I looked at the
Fire
closeout
department.
documents, it's 99, so that's fairly new. They only have a 20 to 30 year span. The dates on these tanks are actually on the request. I can tell you right here, the center building was put in 89,
That's not good.
so it's getting there.
But even a new tank has a limited useful life, right? So
Yeah.
you're just putting off what ultimately,
Ultimately,
unless you just keep using it.
yeah, ultimately you're gonna have to either take the tank out
Right.
or one way or another test the soil around it.
Correct.
Sooner or later. So anytime after 25 years, 30 years, that would be a good time to plan on taking it out, even if you were gonna put a new tank in. Anything longer than that, and you're
Right.
rolling dice.
Right.
Okay, hopefully it comes out to be 20,000.
Well, more modern tanks.
We know what
they sell
remediation costs. We
double
learned that the
wall.
hard way.
They have devices between the two walls that are
Right,
looking
right,
for leaks.
Right.
We don't have that anywhere except for the library, and I have not seen the detection system for the new firehouse. I would hope they would have that. I have not been down there to know. I don't know too much about what they have for safety devices, but the library has it, the center building doesn't, and the town hall does not. No leak detection.
So the next project is the vehicle replacement of the existing van, which is,
2007,
it has how many miles?
coming up on 76,000 miles in another week. It's about time to think about getting rid of that van, to start a reserve, to save up for a new vehicle. By the end of fiscal year 2016, it will probably have over 100,000 miles on it.
Next is the roof and gutter replacement at the animal control facility, which is for fiscal year 2017.
Yeah, I met a contractor, roofing contractor, reputable, that we've used before. He agreed to come out and did an inspection for free. I looked at the roof with him. I measured the roof, so what he knew, I knew. Right now, that roof has about a 3 to 5 year life expectancy left. Some of the tiles themselves on the roof are beginning to crack. The aggregate is falling off into the gutter. It's like the sand in a gutter. The gutter is completely shot. It's falling away from the fascia board on the building, front and back. And I asked him for his best estimate on how long that roof would last. And he said anywhere from 3 to 5 years, so.
Well, what about the gutters?
The gutters, I repair those every fall. I clean them twice. When the leaves are down, go down there and clean them twice. I tack the gutter back up. I just keep moving the nail around in the fascia until I find a good piece of wood. That'll get me through the winter, and that usually gets me through the summer. It's the fall when the heavy wet leaves sit in that gutter and drag that gutter down. But the gutter is definitely kaput. But I can keep doing that till we put a new roof on. No point in doing it twice or spending the money now when I could just keep nailing it back up.
And the HVAC
project we discussed is the
That's a
next one.
that's a guesstimate?
That's a very rough guesstimate based on a preliminary analysis, but it's just a guesstimate at this point. And then,
Tons of cooling's involved there?
pardon?
You know how many tons of cooling involved there?
No, that would be part of
I don't.
Stein's proposal. Up with cooling tonnage, size of the cooling coil, dual coil, heating and cooling. That is part of this process. Yeah, humidity sensors throughout the building. The main problem with that building is the main air handler in that building brings fresh air in, brings it into the building. It doesn't grab the air that's in the building and bring it back into the system, humid, and dehumidify it and then send it back into the building. So during the summer, the unit is bringing fresh air in and it stays in the building. It doesn't go anywhere. The system doesn't pull it back into itself, dehumidify it because of small coil, an adequate coil that's currently in there, and just keeps sending the same humid air back into the building. The fan motor runs too fast, the coil is too small, it pushes that humid air right through the coil, straight through it or over the top of it. Basically, it's just a round robin, humid air, humid air. Then the door is open, the units upstairs, there's no fresh air makeup. They simply pull air out of the upstairs child room, dehumidify it, or attempt to, and put the same air back into the same space with no fresh air intake. None.
It was undersized to begin with?
It was undersized to begin with. It was improperly designed to begin with. The coil was improper. The dehumidification, such as the pool, when it did work, they have two coils in that. One's just for heating, hot water, and in the summer it switches over to cooling. And normally the cooling coil is twice the size of the heating coil. You slow the air down. This is all gets into engineers. At a certain speed, it goes through that coil, condenses on the coil, and drops into a pan and goes away. Well, if you undersize the coil, oversize the motor that's blowing the air through it, you run into a problem. And that's where the library is at right now. Right now, there's over a half a dozen, I've lost count of little homeowner dehumidification units all over the library. I mean, the books aren't suffering. I don't see the pages curling, but it's not a good.
Well, I think Todd's worried about it.
Yeah. And what happens is
He's definitely worried about
you
it.
try to overcompensate for that. You say, well, it's humid in here, so we run the cooling system longer than it should be. And what ends up happening, it tends to be, how do I say, cold and clammy in the building. Because we're lowering the temperature in the building by so much to try and get the moisture out of the air.
Right.
It's very clammy. It doesn't solve the upstairs problem at all. Downstairs, it's just cold and clammy.
So Tony, I see this project, is the estimate that's not necessary to do repairs until 2000, conceivably 18?
Well, once we have our funding for the initial engineering report, then you could, that would be at that point, I'm in a better position to determine how
necessary
urgency it is and what the recommended fix is and how you want to plan for it, which could be, following year or whatever.
Have we thought about putting the contractor on notice about this? Have we done that? It's not that old a building. I'm just throwing that out there.
Sure.
It's about 15 years.
Well,
10, 11.
10 years.
11 maybe.
Oh, 2011.
I'm sorry,
No,
I'm sorry,
2001.
2001.
It was before I got here. It's about 12 years.
So
But I don't know
13
whether
years.
the problem developed as a design issue or if it developed, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there.
Obviously, it hurt that.
Yeah, I mean, they're, even the roof, all the problems with that roof.
We could certainly look into it.
And as a side note, this guesstimate, I'm assuming, is for repairs that would not be of the major necessity that may be needed. I have a feeling this price may be low here, unless you're saying this is just going to be a
This estimate
repair,
is based on,
not switching over the system, but repairing the system.
yes, repairing the system, but his estimate, I got this estimate from him, and now we requested a scope of work
I needed schematic designs, contract documents, cost estimates to sort of get a better idea of what the final price will be. The last price he gave me, I have that, the rough estimate is approximately $250. I think that's a little on the high side, actually. I
If we
really
just
feel
need
that.
repairs.
I think, once I see what he finalized, see what he puts together and it's handed to the town, before it goes out to bid, it needs to be reviewed.
The problem is, to date, no one's been willing to guarantee that the solution they came up
Right.
with would actually
That's correct.
solve the problem.
That's correct.
And
Well, then
so,
you're talking repair rather than replace,
right,
and that's always
and-
a tough.
Yeah, right, and so this is really just a placeholder. I don't think
Right,
we
that's
know whether
correct.
it's gonna be
Right.
more money or less
Correct.
money.
At this point, you don't really know.
But we
we're
need a
sure.
design solution that will actually fix the problem, and then we'll have to make a decision.
And that's what the $19,000 is, to
Right.
try to really roll up your sleeves and
Right.
dig in and
Correct.
identify.
Exactly, right, yeah.
Okay, moving on. The roof repairs on the town hall roof.
Just, how old is that section, right?
I think that was in 2003, I think Greenwood Industries
Yeah.
actually put that roof up and did those.
It's pitch roof?
repairs.
Pitch roof?
Yeah, all this entire roof, and we've had this valley over your head behind
It's
you.
not for the whole
this
roof.
one.
This
No.
isn't for the whole roof.
And we had the valley opposite that done just, what, 3 months ago?
Right.
There was a minor leak in both valleys. I had the roof inspected, I measured the roof.
So this funding here is just for the older portion?
Yeah, this is for the remaining section of the roof area that has not been done since 2003, actually June of '03.
It's only 10 years old? And it,
Well, Greenwood Industries, I looked up the documents on it, $62,000 worth of work up there. It would not be just gutters. It mentions the roof.
shouldn't it last longer than that, or am I,
It depends on, the roofing contractor I had there said that the nails were the improper nails, because you can walk on the roof right now and find a lot of nails that have actually popped up out of the roof.
This is on the $62,000.
Yeah, this is not good.
Okay, can you check on that too?
I remember
But
when we
actually,
talked about this.
the way I see it, you're saying 2018 here, so that'd be 15 years.
15 years on the
But
roof.
still, it should last.
Still, yeah, it's still light, but
It's
it's
still light.
Well, it depends on what they said they installed, but I had a roof, Andy had a roof done. We have lifetime,
Me too.
lifetime shingles,
Right.
or
I
30-year
just-
shingles.
I
So
just did it.
if it says 30-year shingles, and they're 15 years old.
Yeah, but
Who the hell puts 15-year shingles on a commercial building?
I don't think those were lifetime shingles.
I know, but you won't put 15, I don't even make, do they make 15-year shingles? Andy knows about this stuff.
50-year.
15.
15.
Yeah.
On a pup tent, they put 15-year shingles.
No, we gotta call this company up. Hello?
Yeah.
How long is this roof supposed to, how long were these shingles warranted for? I mean, shingles, all shingles are warranted, so
Right.
we should find out, get that, you have that
It's
paperwork?
not
We do, yeah.
upstairs.
Upstairs,
It's
yeah.
not the shingle itself that failed. It has lots to do with the installation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there
And
we
there's
go.
a,
So that means that the roofing company, the roof manufacturer will say it's your problem. and
yeah.
So we ask him about
Guarantee
it.
when
So.
he started with the headlights.
All right.
Ended with
How about
headlights.
replace 4 boilers, and is that header or it's supposed to be heater?
Header.
Header? What's a header?
Header connects with 4 boilers in a row. There's one giant pipe that's behind it, and out that pipe comes a single pipe to each boiler.
And these are the original boilers in the building? or-
That would be the 4 boilers we're talking about.
The library, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, this is at the library, okay.
Yeah, this is the library.
And then there's-
Are these big boilers that are now gonna be small boilers?
No, there's currently 4 boilers in there right now in the library.
I know those
So,
boilers. Yeah,
Yeah, 4 of them.
Yeah.
So far we've lost 2
yeah.
cracked blocks. So
No, but is the technology, in other words, like what's happening at the school where the big boilers are now becoming small boilers because just the way they build them now?
design.
no, we just have a different design. The 4 boilers that are in the library are residential boilers. That's-
So they'd be replaced with something comparable to what they
Commercial
are now?
boilers should be in there,
Boiler number 3 installed,
and there
11,
should be a
boiler
need
number
just for 2
4 installed,
boilers, not
13.
4.
Okay.
Are those gas boilers?
Those are currently gas boilers.
Is that right? Or maybe-
But the block,
maybe it's-
The burner assembly itself is a gas burner, but it's set inside an oil-fired or a boiler that needs a, how would I say it, an oil burner. So there's a mismatch. You're using gas burners on an oil block. To get the most efficiency out of a boiler, you usually use a gas burner on a gas block. Well, we don't currently have that anywhere in the town.
Well, one suggestion I'd like to make is, we talked about integrating our technology. We have so many different buildings here with different boilers. Some aren't even gas in, some are still oil. As we start to bring in new boilers, such as the Beecher Road building project, and we just brought in the boilers, I'd like to see us try to use similar boilers, at least similar companies with a similar maintenance service, rather than have maintenance coming from all different sources and run into the problems we're having now, which is we can't get parts on some of our boilers, others we can. But as we start to, and I've noticed boilers a few places, as we start to look for new boilers, I'd like to try to keep as best we could a system that is either with using the same company or something where we can at least use the same maintenance company, have easier access to parts, that type of thing, rather than have one that's in each company.
It's all a question of money. I mean, why you would find
A residential boiler in a public library, it was before my time. I wasn't involved in that, but you're absolutely right. If maintenance, we look at maintenance, if we want the boiler that we want, it's expensive, they last a very long time, they require very, very little service, obviously because they're expensive and they're gas. Once we've shifted over to gas, everything in town is currently gas now, all our boilers. There is no more boiler cleaning. That's it. Those boilers aren't cleaned for 10 years. They're so efficient and so clean, there's no reason to cleaning. So we get rid of rated combustion, our cleaning service. That's a savings right there of thousands. The two boilers that we want on there are commercial grade, top of the line. You can go to Smith, Burnham, and they're all comparable, very good, expensive boilers. But to save money in a municipality, that's why the town hall, which is the next page, I believe, just the blocks were changed at the time. We didn't get new burners. So you're right, it's a mishmash of stuff, but it's costly.
Brad, could I ask you about boiler 3 and boiler 4? They were installed in 2011, is this correct?
That's correct.
And you're looking to replace them as well?
We just changed the blocks on those. The blocks were around $3,000 each. And the new header that we want was designed by an engineer to reduce thermal shock. Because when you require heat in the library, there's a call for heat. Normally one boiler will come on, then boiler number 2 will come on, but boiler number 3 and 4 might stay off for 6 months and not come on all winter. Or it will come on after 3 months in time. Ice cold water will hit that boiler repeatedly, year after year, and an ice cold water hitting that boiler, starting it up, thermal shock, cracks a section in the boiler,
Seizes it.
you're done.
Yeah.
We just bought a boiler that would be number 3. I think that opened, 1, 2, 3. It's currently vacant. The new boiler is sitting on a pallet, getting ready to be put in that hole. Boiler number 4 failed in 11.
Boiler number
Same
4,
thing.
the same was purchased in 13.
This year, it says, 2013.
Boiler number 4 purchased in 13.
I think those dates are.
Or was it 03 and 01?
No, they're reversed. They should be. You got boiler number 4 installed in 13. That's incorrect. Boiler number 3 is installed in 2011. No, that's not correct. Boiler number 3 space is empty, and boiler number 4 space, we just put that in probably around 2011. The 2 remaining boilers, 1 and 2, are the only 2 boilers that are left since the library's been built.
Okay. And the boilers in town hall, I think we're good. You know about boilers in town. Okay. And that's it.
Thank you, Brad.
That's right. And finally, we have the Thomas Darling House. I see 3 gentlemen sitting in the back looking like Thomas Darling house people. They're usually in costume, though. I don't know, especially Mr. Menzies. Yeah. Okay.
It's not bad.
There's a,
Last page.
spreadsheet in your package.
Last page.
Yeah.
Is that what I was looking at? I did see that. Oh, here, yeah.
Tonight we have, some of you may or may not know, but you should. Don Menzies is our president, and he's here tonight. Leland Torrance has been appointed by the MD Woodbridge Historical Society officially as our consultant for preservation, and that would include the Darling House as well. He's giving his professional services to Ms. Grouse, and he'll show some pictures tonight concerning the capital budget. And thirdly, it's premature to discuss the South School. I've been consulting with Tony and the others at the Historical Society till we have an operating budget and a capital budget. So we'll have to wait till 2015 to talk about that. Tony, you would agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nobody wants the house.
My name is Leland Torrance. I've been in the restoration business for 37 years. Do a lot of buildings around Connecticut, including a lot of landmark structures, and also perform a lot of 10-year capital improvement plans and do specifications and scope of work for historic structures. I've had the pleasure of being wrangled into the Thomas Darling House by Marvin Aarons here, and I'm sorry I had a slide presentation, but I didn't give Tony enough warning. But I would like to make sure that all of you come down and make arrangements either with Don if you haven't been down there, and please go see the Thomas Darling House. If you look at our webpage, the first image that comes up in the town home of Woodbridge is a picture of the Thomas Darling House, and it is quintessentially what Woodbridge is all about, historic Woodbridge.
If you are going to come take a look, this Sunday is actually the time to do it. Our holiday open house is Sunday 2 to 4. 3 o'clock, the chamber singers come from the high school. Mr. and Mrs. Darling will be there to greet you. So if you have some time on Sunday, come on down.
I know Ed Sheehy was a great friend of Marvin's, and they both lived in historic houses out in Ansonia, and Ed and Tony were very instrumental in starting to focus and get a line item in the budget to do some capital needs repairs down there. The Woodbridge Historical Society and a lot of volunteers does a tremendous amount of work down there in addition to the funds that we're seeking from you all, and we're tremendously pleased that the town is taking a role here, because historic structures like this are incredibly expensive to keep up. Now what we did in the beginning was a 10-year capital needs assessment of the building, a typical assessment where we looked primarily at safety issues at the beginning, then we looked at asset preservation issues. So over the past 3 years, we started an electrical plan, which we've completed, which was to check all the wiring, replace breakers. We didn't upgrade the service, but we basically made the electrical system safe. We started a window program, which is, you'll see in the budget, goes over the next 5 years to restore and fix windows. We started a paint program, which we're 3 years into, where we're essentially working around the building, keeping the building lead safe. We have some plans in the future for funds for planning. One thing I would ask all of you, anybody out there, one of the things that's not in the budget here is the barn. There are good bricks and mortar funds out there now for structures like the Thomas Darling. Everything we do out there, we follow the Secretary of Interior standards for restoration as if it was a landmark building. But the real problem is to find volunteers to help write grants. So if any of you know anyone in Woodbridge or with those towns who might be able to donate some time and effort to write grants, either for the barn or the building, that would be very helpful to us. We had some ice damage in the storm a couple of years ago, which was all repaired. The Woodbridge Historical Society did all paint repairs to the fences in the front of the building, and actually there was a nice slide that showed the photograph that you can see on the website, which has a fence that needs painting, and then now you see it all painted quite nicely.
Leland mentioned the barn, and I don't want you to get any wrong opinions about this barn. It's, in my opinion, almost as important as the house. It actually predates the house. Mr. Darling had it built in about 1770, and he housed all the materials that he purchased to build his house in the barn until he could get busy on that. So it's one of the few remaining real, unaltered 18th century barns in the state. There's no electricity, so it's tough to show you around over there, but it's as it was finished about 1770. And it does need some work. There was some sections that are pulling away in the back that we're going to try and get working on fairly soon.
Last year we had some issues. We had to shift around some of the priorities in the funding. We had leaks at the north wall of the apartment, which is a rental income for us. And when we started doing the fixes, it ballooned from 3,000 to 9,000 to 13,000. There was tons of rot in the north side of the building. That's all been repaired. In 2015, we are looking to continue our paint program, which is a lead safety plan around the house to keep all friable chips and stuff off the ground. We do, third graders, we do have school activities there, so it's important to keep the place lead safe. The interior is in spectacular condition. All the rooms that the public is allowed in are kept up regularly in terms of painting. We did a lot of plaster repairs over the last few years. I wish I could show you the slides here. This year we're asking you guys to consider to continue the paint and lead safety program at $7,600. We're asking you as a both asset preservation and a safety situation, the large cook fireplace, which is used regularly. I had them inspected by 3 different historic chimney guys, and we came up with the 2 priorities being the cook chimney, which what we'd like to do is do some pointing at the floor, some pointing at the base of the chimney. We'd like to install a large damper as part of energy conservation in the chimney, and line parts of it with a ceramic filler and parts of it with a less expensive sealer, which would be the smoke chamber. And then the other fireplace in the living room, which is used quite a bit, we would also do some work, some pointing work and some lining work. All of this for fire safety. The cook chimney is used regularly, and if you want to speak about the vent in a second, that would be great. However, I do think both of these are very important in terms of the continued use and just doing the fire upgrades. I did get 3 estimates from pre-qualified chimney restoration guys. If you guys accept this, obviously I would put the spec out again to bid, but these are the 2 main items we're asking you guys to look at this year.
We can all see the going out. It's all typical, painting, whatever. And there is revenue associated with the Darling House, right?
Yeah, we have caretakers, and we have since the 70s, pretty much since we started there. And the rent from that money has historically gone right back into the house. It's been tougher over the last decade or so
to find caretakers that will actually come and stay for a while. So we've had some lean years where we've had 6-8 months with no income. So we've dipped into our other operating funds to maintain the house. So this program that we're looking at now is fantastic. It allows us to use some of the funds that we have now for our archives and our collections management. We have some unbelievable furniture and unbelievable two-dimensional objects in the house that we want to take as good care of as we do the house. So we're still planning to invest some of our money in the upkeep and maintenance on the house, but now with this program we can now get busy on some other really important Woodbridge history. The event that Leland was referring to is our Tavern Night. Many of you have been, most of you have heard about it, where we turn the Darling House into a tavern for the evening with live entertainment, hearth-cooked food. Mr. and Mrs. Darling are there again, but there's free beer, so why wouldn't they be there? New England Brewing Company comes and puts on 3 or 4 cask ales for us. It's a great night. We'll be doing that in April. You'll all be the first to know. The first select woman is always invited gratis. The rest of you have to pay. But it is a fundraiser for us so that we can keep doing the work that we do. We do use the fireplace. Leland referred to as on a regular basis. It's a limited regular basis. We might use it 2-3 times a year. We don't think there's any imminent dangers to doing that. But the work that he's talking about will absolutely ensure that we can use the fireplaces without any worries.
I know that, what you call it, pub night?
Pardon me?
What'd you call it, pub?
Tavern
Night?
Tavern.
That was one of Ed's favorite nights. Oh, he Ed had a great time. He always would talk about what a great time he had at that. So.
I think all of you, the other thing we do is historic, as your town historian especially. I think all of you, or most of you, received in the spring a monograph concerning Thomas Darling as relates to a very valuable chair in his house, and then it explored the political climate in New Haven and the country at that time. So we do that aspect of it, and I wanted you to be acquainted with this man, because the next monograph is going to be on a very famous, he's the first and only tutor at Yale. He tutored the class of 1746. They presented him with a silver bowl made by a silversmith on Chapel Street. And that's in their collection. And it's hard to find in the new museum because it's so extensive, like the Metropolitan. But we're going to discuss that because he was really a very highly placed gentleman. He also went to Hopkins Grammar School, my alma mater, and was a trustee there and secretary for many years. So he's a well-known man, and you own this house, and it's really an historic house. It took 2 years to build. He lived in New Haven, actually. It's family-owned land that LU Yale originally owned. I just wanted to give you that anecdotally.
Hey, it's also appreciated that the way you've constructed this, it's level year to year, which means it has a limited impact on budget increases, et cetera. If we have it in there and it stays pretty much the same year to year, there's really no budget impact per se. So it's a good way of doing it for us. So.
And aside from the budgeting, I just wanted to thank you all for your volunteer work keeping up this house. It's really a credit to all of you and such an asset for the town. So thank you all very much.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Leland, maybe you could email us.
Yeah, if you want to email us the slideshow, we'll do the photos.
I can give you the
flash. Actually, give Karen the flash drive, and we'll have her send it out tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's a
you
good
just
idea.
send it out to all of us, and we can see it. We'll have the opportunity.
Well, I will tell you, one of the surprises in it is I managed to find a portrait of Elion Clark III, who used to live at the house at the bottom of Clark Road in Litchfield. And you all see there's a striking resemblance between Ed Sheehy and Mr. Clark. I'm not sure where the family's from.
Wow.
Okay, anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
With that, we can adjourn.
See you Sunday.
Take care.